Hello, and welcome to the UCLA Undergraduate Research Week Network Corner. Throughout our presentations, you're invited and encouraged to submit your questions for our presenters through the chat box, and we will get to as many as possible. I'm Carol Carruthers, a UCLA graduate, lifelong Bruin, and member of the Undergraduate Research Week's Council. It's my pleasure to introduce today our speakers throughout the day. They're all members of the council as well. And to begin, it is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Distinguished Professor Dr. Roger Wakamoto, the UCLA Vice Chancellor for Research and Creative Activities. Dr. Wakamoto is a distinguished atmospheric meteorologist. He served as director of the National Center for Atmospheric Research and its Earth Observing Laboratory, and further served as assistant director of the National Science Foundation Directorate for Geosciences, I'll get that, before returning to UCLA in 2017. Dr. Wakamoto, I am thrilled to say to talk about the title of your new title as Vice Chancellor, because I trust that it encompasses both the arts and humanities as well as the basic sciences. Dr. Wakamoto.
Well, thank you very much, Carol, for that very kind opening statement. I will, since you asked the question, I will say that when I took the job, the title was Vice Chancellor for Research, but I've tried really hard to listen to all corners of the campus, and it was very clear from what we traditionally have called North Campus. They said Vice Chancellor for Research doesn't quite capture the wealth of activities we do on the North Campus, and I said, well, what words do you think do capture that? And they said creative activities, so on my own, I just went back and I changed my title, and I guess I shocked a lot of people that I would do that. But like I said, I try very hard to listen to people. I am responsive to suggestions, especially if they're great suggestions, which that one was. So I can't tell you how honored I'm here to talk to you about the Undergraduate Research Week. I'm sort of astounded by these numbers, like 4,000 undergraduate students. It's my understanding over 800 abstracts, 1,000 presentations, either live or recorded. I can tell you that based on my own experience, undergraduate research was very important. I was lucky enough when I was an undergraduate many decades ago to have been involved in an undergraduate research project, and it was, quite frankly, career-altering. To that point, I was doing pretty well in class, but I really thought it was a lot of memorization. I'm sure it's different nowadays, but I thought it was a lot of memorization. And research, just being able to be exposed to that, just changed my whole outlook. I suddenly became incredibly motivated. It allowed me to just have the confidence to say, I want to go to grad school. I really want to make a jump. In fact, I went up to San Jose State for my undergraduate degree, just up the coast in the Bay Area, and made the huge jump to the University of Chicago, which I never would have done or even contemplated until I had a chance to sort of dip my pinky into research. In fact, I can tell you that I probably would have just ended with a bachelor's degree and just gotten a job somewhere. So that's how career-altering it really was. So now let me break off and talk a little bit about sort of the pandemic and COVID-19 experience. And it's changed all of our lives. It's changed all our lives across the world. And in fact, let me just reach into the pocket. I did remember to bring my little mask. I just took it off for my little speech. But this is just one of many indicators that show how much our lives have been changed. So let me talk a little bit just briefly about some of the things UCLA has contributed to. I'll refer to something that I'm going to guess you've all heard about, and that is COVID-19, how long it remains infectious on things like cardboard, plastic, and metal. It's been referred to in the media quite a bit. I think it's something that most people have heard at, and that's why when you get a delivery with a cardboard box, you put it aside and wait X number of hours. Turns out one of our researchers was a co-author of that paper. Another example is many of the people across the campus, obviously, especially in the medical school, are helping to work on improving testing of COVID-19. And then maybe a last example, one of our faculty are even working with LA County, the forecasting team. They're doing actually modeling efforts of the spread of COVID-19 through the county, and they've asked one of our researchers to be part of that because they understand the expertise in this person in modeling various types of spread. I do want to stop there and also talk about some of the unfortunate things that have happened that for me at least, strike home, and that it is unfortunate that when a pandemic strikes, there's this striking disparity in risk and outcomes when you talk about racial and ethnic groups. And in fact, it didn't surprise me, it may surprise you, that throughout history, going back centuries, even going back to the Black Plague, the groups that were disproportionately affected by these kinds of pandemics were the underserved, the ones that were sort of marginalized. And one would hope after centuries have evolved that we would have evolved so that wouldn't happen anymore. But I'm sad to say that still happens even today. It also was kind of disheartening as I began to recognize that early career women faculty were also disproportionately impacted. And it's not just anecdotal evidence. In my mind, I've talked to journal editors that said that there's actually been this rather precipitous drop in journal submissions to publications. And I think you know the reason why. When everyone had to go home and they closed the school districts, children now are at home. Turns out the mother is the one that typically is the caretaker, and so if you're a researcher, you have to worry about the kids, and you can't spend your time doing research as much. Let me now transition into something else that we've been talking about. In fact, I've been at sort of ground zero talking about, and that is slowly ramping up research to a little higher level. There has been research going on campus, but it's bare minimum, sort of what we have called essential research. One example are researchers working on COVID-19 and other types of research that if we had stopped them, it would have just been devastating for their research project. It would have literally terminated perhaps years of work. But now we're at the point where we're going to be considering bringing people back very closely. And I don't know if this has gotten as much press or attention because I think there's been so much interest, rightfully so, on instruction. You've probably, again, heard about, are we going to come back in the fall? And if so, is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be fully remote? Well, actually, research is going to be ramped up far earlier than we talk about instruction. And as we do this, we want to do this safely. I can tell you we're going to do it in phases, very carefully do like step functions, increasing our activity on campus. It is true that for this group, maybe this won't resonate as much, but it is true that probably graduate students will be the first to come back because by their very name, graduate students, they absolutely depend on research to move on in their career. But I will tell you, for all the undergraduates out there, that I anticipate that undergraduate research will also come back as long as it's considered essential and probably on a case-by-case basis. So you're not going to be totally left out of the picture. So maybe now moving a little bit closer to the whole purpose of this undergraduate research, looking at more than a handful of their abstracts, I would say that the ones you've submitted have been truly impressive. Obviously, I can't list all of them, the 805 abstracts, I believe. I'll just highlight a few. I noticed there were 3 projects considering how the stay-at-home orders and remote learning are affecting learning and economic insecurity among UCLA students. I love the fact that in fact, kind of research impacts our own students. There were 2 projects that looked at media usage and information sharing about COVID-19. One considering how media consumption correlates with physical symptoms of anxiety. Not like students already don't have enough anxiety to worry about even before COVID-19. This sort of elevates it to a different level. And one testing ways in which misinformation is spread or hindered. I suppose basically another variation of what has often been referred to as fake news. So I think one of the important take-home message, whether it's undergraduates, whether it's faculties and other researchers, and that is research does continue. It never stopped. It won't stop. And in fact, more importantly, this is a message I want to really emphasize and hope you'll take away, and that research is in fact going to get us out of this mess. And why do I say that? Because research is going to lead eventually to the vaccine that hopefully will all inoculate us against this virus. So this is how important research is to everyone's life. Other things I'd like to say about UCLA research, which again, when I say this, I mean all of you too, all the undergraduates, and that research does contribute to the public good. I think this is a good example of it as we try to strive for a solution to COVID-19. It's good for the economy, it's good for technology and innovation. It heals people, whether in the medical school or others. It helps prevent and make us more resistant to disasters. And remember, we have a lot of very proud things to think about when we think about research at UCLA. The first message sent over the internet was sent here at UCLA. The discovery that there was a black hole in our own Milky Way was here at UCLA. And one of our researchers emphasized that failures of past societies, in other words, collapses of past societies, can be based primarily on cultural factors rather than environmental factors, in other words, climate change. I won't say that climate change isn't important, but these papers have shown that, in fact, cultural factors can be equally important, if not sometimes more important. I hope in this case that cultural factors don't hinder, because we are in a real critical situation right now, and that we can all come together and as a group across the world. So I'll leave you before we'll, as I understand, enter into sort of a question and answer period, that I sincerely look forward to one day actually reading about all of your research results, because I believe amongst you all there are some brilliant scientists that one day I will look up to. And so I'd like to think that UCLA played a really important role in that development. So I'll stop there and love to see if questions are submitted so I can try to answer them.
First question that comes in from Kelly O'Leary is, what advice would you have for incoming freshmen and transfer students this fall as they face new challenges in accessing resources around pursuing research?
What advice? I'll start by saying, don't get frustrated. Believe me, everyone is, including me, there isn't anybody more interested in sort of bringing research back online, as we'd love to come back with instruction. We're slowly kind of tackling all these problems, and I believe by the fall quarter and hopefully in the winter, we'll be in a position that you will be able to access resources and be able to pursue research. I suppose, to be honest, the only thing that concerns me, and I always try to be as honest as possible, is the possibility that there's going to be a second wave of COVID-19 in the fall quarter. We're all sort of watching that. I hope that's wrong and it doesn't occur. But if it does, that will be an impact, not just on UCLA, but all over the world. So I'll put that one caveat that we'll just have to watch and monitor. But other than that, I am very optimistic that we'll be able to ramp up research and education.
Now, another one is, Dr. Wakimoto, how do you define and research creative activities?
Well, I'll just tell you, I'll kind of channel what I heard when the people on North Campus said that research just doesn't in any way capture the breadth of activities. And I remember asking that question, okay, well, what kind of activities are you talking about? And they say, well, performances, exhibits, music, performances. And so I said, I get that. I understand that maybe isn't the sort of classical definition of research. So what would you use? And like I said, they came back fairly quickly. Well, we call this creative activities. And so that's really what I'm trying to capture, because my office should represent the breadth of activities. It isn't just the person that's sitting in a lab or going out into a field project, for example, with equipment that's studying research. These other things that I just mentioned are equally important, and it is a fair criticism if my title does not represent that. And so perhaps to finish the story, what I did was simply told my staff to change my name on my door and my business cards, and with no fanfare. I didn't even announce it. And And I think that people suddenly noticed as they walked around my door and other things like my letter template. And I think that actually spread the news faster than any email I could have sent to the campus. So maybe you can take that home as a little message. Little things like that can spread faster than an official communication from me.
Great. Dr. Wakamoto, you've talked about Larry Kleinhert and Andre Geese and Jared Diamond, I think.
Yes. Well, you're great.
I love them all. Tell us a little bit about some of the exciting research that's going on at this point, your outstanding topics beyond COVID-19, some of the other research projects that are particularly...
Oh gosh, that's a great question, and it almost seems like a distant memory because my mind got flooded with COVID-19, but I'll just tell you about some of the things that are pretty exciting. Number one on my mind, and I know it's also on the mind of our EVC and Provost, Emily Carter, is trying to ramp up in both education and research data science. We're not at UCLA as quite as organized as I think we should be in the topic of data sciences. And there's some, maybe getting even more specific, there are some wonderful examples going on. I'll just throw one out. We recently formed the department or program of computational medicine, which is all about data science. And so that's one area that I was spending a lot of time contributing to and trying to figure out what this campus wants to offer. There's a lot of exciting work in precision medicine. There's just so much exciting work in engineering about new technology. I often think that that what often is referred to as the Internet of Things is really the future. And what do I mean about the Internet of Things? Well, you may not have heard it referred to that, but these are smart cars, our watches, our smartphones, that are just changing our lives and will change research too, because it is providing so much information. You may not even know that your car records temperature. Many of the cars record pressure. Windshield wipers are a proxy for how much it's raining. I could go on and on. There are laser sensors in your car. Why do you think that alarm goes off when you're too close to the wall? It is really amazing what's out there, and so that is another area that I've been just incredibly excited about. So I could go on and on, but those are just some of the things.
It sounds very exciting. Let me ask, Billy asks, what is your expectation of our economy and what will it mean for research financing? Yeah,
I will give you a couple perspectives. First, I'll give you my personal expectation is that, I do believe what many people have said, those that are very much into financial topics, that this is a very different sort of crash we're experiencing because it was in some respects self-inflicted. It wasn't because of like the Great Depression or Great Recession where something fundamentally changed. This is because of basically a virus that occurred. And so I'll be optimistic that they feel that will recover with time once we figure out a solution. It may not occur like a V shape. In other words, as precipitous as it dropped, it will rise just as equally. But I do believe it will recover. But now, even more, I will say that no matter what the economy is like, I think it's incredibly important to continue to invest in research and in collaborative research that is in part of the question, because if we don't invest in research, we're actually sacrificing the future, because this is how we train the next generation of workforce. We work with industry in a collaborative way to come up with new technology and new innovation. And so research, I think in any sort of situation, it has to be invested in because it is also the way that we will sort of craft the path for recovery. So that's probably the best I can give to you, and just cross our fingers that it turns out to be correct.
Okay, there was, as I'm struggling with my mask here, from men, has the current COVID-19 climate created a more collaborative research environment globally and here at UCLA? Is it possible still?
Well, I think the best example I can give you in terms of collaboration is something that many of you may be familiar with, and that's what's called open science and open research. There's been a lot of discussion that data should be immediately available to anybody, not just for an individual researcher, but should be shared globally instantaneously. Equally, there are many people that said a publication should not be just for subscribers. It should be open access. It should be available for anybody at any time. And what has happened during COVID-19 is exactly that. Rather than us bickering whether you have to pay a subscription before you can see my article, and rather bickering about, this is my data, so I can't share it with anybody, what has been, what I think, a shining moment with COVID-19 is data has just been freely put out there for all researchers across the world to grab. Publications that are specifically related to COVID-19, publishers have said, look, we're putting down our barriers, we're putting down any sort of a wall, they call it, a publication wall, and they're open access because we want to contribute to the solution, and contributing to the solution means you must have access to data immediately, you must have access to publications. So I would say that was amazing. It didn't require anybody to force that to happen. I think the community just recognized it must happen. And so that's probably the best example I can give you about how it's created a more collaborative environment.
And what are your plans specifically? Are you continuing your own research?
My own research. Oh, now you're getting down to where it hurts. I do, I'll just, true confessions, you did say I was an atmospheric scientist. I study severe weather and tornadoes. So travel has been basically restricted. And so very painfully, I typically, and in fact, usually this week, I am in the Midwest with mobile Doppler radars trying to collect data on tornadoes. So I am, like a lot of people that do seasonal work, I'm a victim of COVID-19. And at some level, it's incredibly painful. But I know my job is more than my own personal research, and helping everybody else on campus do their research is reward enough. But, it does kind of pain me a little bit that I've just sacrificed this entire year of a time that's very near and dear to me, and it's the reason I got into research.
Lovely. Here's a question about, you mentioned that undergraduate research was a pivotal and career-defining moment for you. Are you able to share a story or experience about your decision and how you made it?
Oh, how I made it? Well, I was, I'll admit it. It's a myth, at least for me, it's a myth that I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I had these big grander visions of being a person at a university, and certainly not being a vice chancellor for research and creative activities. I was pretty clueless as an undergraduate. I was quite literally just going through the motions. I didn't flunk any classes. My God, my parents would have killed me. But it wasn't like I was just trying super hard and wasn't motivated. And so it really was, and this may not surprise you, it really was a couple mentors, a couple of faculty in the department that I was enrolled in that kind of pulled me aside and didn't lecture me so much, but tried to just expose me to areas and research that I wasn't aware of. I guess they recognized some sort of spark in me that was not really as bright as it should be, and so there was just, I would call, very, very gentle nudging. And looking back, that was really the pivotal or career-defining moment, that someone actually cared, that someone actually gave me incredible advice. And on my own, once I was sort of shown the way, the excitement just sort of started on its own. Everything just became crystal clear to me. I know my parents were just shocked. I think they almost fainted when I said I wanted to go to grad school. And not only that, I wanted to get out of California. I wanted to go to Chicago, which is for someone who never experienced the winter, I will tell you, going to Chicago is it's a big career-altering moment personally, too. So yeah, that's how it happened, and I'm being very honest with you in terms of how my life sort of unfolded during those undergraduate years.
Thank you. That's lovely stories, and I know Chicago, so I can relate to that.
Yeah, it was. They set a record for the amount of snow my first year as a freshman. I admit there was a couple times saying, "Wow, I can't believe I'm here," and I didn't mean that in a positive sense. What
are some of your particular pet projects or hopes for research as we go forward, and how do you research the creative activities?
Well, if you're asking sort of like what role I in particular I play, my role, I think the best word I could say is a facilitator. You have great deans in the college and in the professional schools, and chairs and instructors. I mean, they know exactly the kinds of research and creative activities that they should be doing. So I don't want to duplicate, and nor do I want to in any way usurp what they're doing. But I think I can facilitate, especially if it tends to be more interdisciplinary, where they need connections, or they maybe need a little broader perspective outside their own little discipline that maybe I can help. So these are the areas where I think I've kind of injected myself in a helpful manner to just help deans, chairs, and students to sort of understand where they could take maybe a slightly broader perspective, and sometimes that isn't necessary at all. But that's sort of the way I think of my mission and my job description.
Do you have any examples of that interdisciplinary research? I know it's so involving in the sciences. How can we connect North and South campuses?
Well, I'll just give you one example. There's this a call that just recently came out from the National Science Foundation that is interdisciplinary. It's called Coast and People. Coast sort of kind of, I think, well, Coast and People sort of give it away. They're very concerned about rising sea level. They're worried about climate change. But it's, I think, equally important that they put in the title people, because it's people that make a lot of the decisions. For example, there's still a mass migration of people that live at the coast, even though they, in fact, know that the sea level is rising. And so it goes beyond just physical sciences. There are social science issues involved. And so I realized right away that we need to bring expertise from across the campus if we want to be competitive and get one of these. What the National Science Foundation wants to do is establish centers to understand coast and people. And so if UCLA hopes to win one of these centers, it really has to be my office to try to facilitate those interactions across the campus.
I know there's a lot of work in environmental humanities and digital humanities and new kinds of disciplines formed.
Absolutely.
That really interrelate.
Absolutely, and in fact, I've had briefings on both those subjects. So I'm very familiar with those two, and they're incredibly important.
We're about out of time. Do you have any further comments you'd like to make, Roger?
No, other than it's an exciting time. I think a little bit longer term. Don't think at the moment, because with COVID-19, I know it's not the best time to think that everything looks bright and fuzzy, but it really will. We'll pass. This will pass, like a lot of things will, and you just need to be patient. I think you really need to think how important you all are, and again, I applaud you all for working so hard on undergraduate research projects. This is just great for UCLA. It's great for you, and I just wish you the best of luck, because embedded in all you I know are going to be more than a few inspiring leaders, and I expect that maybe one of you out there is going to be sitting here at this lectern making exactly similar type comments as I am, and I look forward to when that occurs. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wakamoto. Keep the
Welcome.
research going.
You're welcome.